Good morning. So just on behalf of my colleagues, thanks for the opportunity to discuss regional cost of revision total knee replacement. We introduced the revision knee complexity classification checklist to the region in 2 years ago, and we've since presented the results of the first 2 years of data collection on this in the knee. This was in line with the aims of Getting It Right First Time initiative, which tasked regional networks with addressing the caseload complexity spread and cost of revision total knee replacement. What we don't know yet is the regional cost burden of revision knee surgery, the relationship between complexity and cost, and also we know that the tariff award given to revision units is not dependent on surgical complexity as we understand it. So far we've got 2 years of total data from the region, and we've also got 1 year of financial data from the RD&E. The aims therefore were to estimate the annual regional cost of revision total knee replacement from existing data, estimate the regional financial deficit across 8 revision centres associated with the current tariff arrangements, and estimate the regional and local cost saving of complexity clustering. In terms of methods, we had 1 year of data available from the RD&E. Looking at the finances, we calculated the mean cost, tariff and balance for each of the complexity categories as determined by the checklist. These means were then applied to the data from each revision centre to provide local estimates. We considered the complexity clustering effect using 3 hypothetical scenarios of grouping more complex cases within the regional high volume centre. A number of assumptions underpin this piece of work, mainly that operational costs were equivalent between revision units in the region, that the tariffs though there were a range of tariffs, were available rather than a single episode, and therefore a mean was used, and that this mean was applicable to the region as a whole, and that the RKCC data represented regional practice, and that loan kit costs were comparable between revision centres. So in terms of the raw data, you can see the revised cost in red, the tariff in blue, and the balance in the grey dots, and that the balance is often significantly into negative figures. Similarly for R2s to a greater extent, and similarly to R3s to a greater extent, although with less clustering because it's more disparate practice. So in terms of the absolute results, when you look at the high volume centre means, in terms of estimation, the mean deficit for an R1 was over £2,000, mean deficit for an R2 over 6.5, and similarly for an R3. The estimated high volume total deficit in a year is likely over £500,000, and applying this to the region as a whole, we've calculated a deficit of over £1 million for revision total knee replacement. Complexity was associated with higher financial costs. The assumption we made about loan kit costs was not tenable, as there were specific arrangements in place for particular revision centres, and therefore our assumption was untenable. We have seen before, however, that loan kit percentage use was higher in lower volume centres, so it may be that cost efficiencies are less in units doing lower volumes of work. Looking at the hypothetical scenarios, each scenario where the regional high volume centre took more complex work was associated with a much higher cost, so going into 700,000 and 600,000, and compared to the £500,000. So in conclusion then, current remuneration for revision total knee replacement is inadequate. It doesn't reflect the complexity. Restructuring regional workload does create additional financial burden on specialist centres. In terms of moving this forward, strategic financial decision making is required within networks. There is a proposed top-up payment planned, however, with a limited total orthopaedic quotient. We will need to look at having regular simple procedures carried out where there's an opportunity for trusts to earn back money lost from providing a revision knee service. Thank you.